There was a knock on my door. Linda? It's time for your assessment. I'll be right there. I kissed a photo of Cody and placed it by my bed. I wish you were here with me to learn about your gift. I let you down, but I promise I'll do my best in your memory. I love you. After wiping away a tear, I opened the door to find myself facing Agent Hansen. Good morning. Her smile shifted to a concerned frown. Are you all right? Don't you like your new quarters? No, I do, thank you for helping me relocate. I was just feeling emotional. My son should have been here too. If only I'd known about Covescope 2 years ago. She held my arm. We're sorry too. But please remember, it wasn't your fault. I know, but I can't help feeling I should have figured it out somehow. Your circumstances were unfortunate, but you're here now. And you can help us in so many ways. I nodded. I promised Cody I'd do my best in his honor. Her smile returned. Then let's go and do it. I followed her down the hall to the elevators. When do I start my veterinary work here? Once we're done with your assessment. I don't like the idea of testing on animals. I want to change those procedures as soon as possible. They don't suffer, if that's what you're worried about. A censor is always there to make sure they don't feel a thing, and a persuader makes sure they forget all about it. It's still wrong. They didn't consent. You should test on consenting humans. Or on each other. I guess we could, but some tests do end up being deadly. But I'm hopeful you can help. Down at the lab, they're having a field day with your blood samples. Really? Is there potential for creating a solution for disadvantageous gifts? They're optimistic. At the elevators, an old woman joined us and Agent Hansen said, Hey, Tesfaye. This is Linda, the nuller. Linda, this is Agent Tesfaye. She's a primary drainer. I shook hands with her. It's nice to meet you. Likewise, she said. I'm going to be the first person to assess you. Are you looking forward to today? Yes. I think it'd be a great way to meet everyone here. Do all of you agents live at Covescope? No, but we have the option. She gestured to the rooms we'd passed by. These living quarters are mostly for civilians like you who are here to understand their gifts. Once they learn how to control them, they can go back to their ordinary lives. So no one really lives here for good. Except Kadir, Agent Hansen said. Poor guy. Who's that? He's the only classification who won't be assessing you today. He's a killer. A killer? Yes. Anyone who comes within 50 feet of him just drops dead. And they can't control it. Their gift can kill even if they're asleep. And most gifts don't work past 30 feet, but killers have insane radiuses and can even penetrate walls like they don't exist. That's terrifying. How many killers are there? Very few. There's less than a 0.01% chance of a gifted person being a killer, but when it happens, it's tragic. Kadir killed his parents and siblings when he turned 11, and he hasn't been close to another human being since. I put my hand to my mouth. Oh God, poor kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's closer to your age now. He's lived here the entire time. Yes. How did you even get him here? I asked, following them into the elevator. With his help, Agent Tesfaye said. He was a very level-headed child in spite of his situation. His parents had talked to him about Covescope and the different gifts that could manifest, and he called us crying, saying he was a killer. My heart broke. Oh, no, the poor boy. It was truly unfortunate. Since we didn't know his gift's radius, we sent a helicopter to pick him up from his balcony in a cage dangling 60 feet down. It dropped him off in a tower we built specifically for killers, and he's lived there ever since. He's a very nice guy, Agent Hansen said as we exited the elevator. He used to join us in the cafeteria through video chat, but after a few years, he stopped. He blocked us all and covered his cameras. But he's still taking the meals we send up, so at least he's alive. I can't imagine what life for him must be like, I said. And I can't believe you still call these types of abilities gifts. It's more of a curse. We try to maintain an optimistic view, and if you end up being classified as a primary nuller, you could help him join society again. Agent Tesfaye gestured toward a room with glass walls. Please, come in, doctor. I walked in and sat down at a metal table, my gaze scanning the rows of people sitting outside. Will all those people be assessing me? No. Some are just here to observe. Agent Tesfaye sat across from me. Are you ready? Yes. I'll attempt to drain your energy enough to make you fall asleep. Do I have your permission? Yes. She focused on my eyes, a half smile on her face, and I gave her an awkward smile back. After a while, with no reaction from her, I began to get antsy, so I fidgeted with my bracelet, its jingling echoing in the glass room. This is a first for me, Agent Tesfaye said, turning to the people outside. I can't breach her gift, and I used all my force. It's like a brick wall. Linda? What did you experience? A man asked through the speakers. Nothing, I replied. Tesfaye, touch her. She held her hand out, amused. The last time I had to touch someone to drain them was when I was 14. I took her hand. Does it make a difference? Yes. Secondaries need touch to express their gift because they aren't powerful enough otherwise. Primaries don't need a physical connection, but we do apply it when we want to boost our potential. She once again focused on my eyes, only to release me a few seconds later with a chuckle. No difference whatsoever. Linda, any difference? The man on the speaker asked. No, I replied. Agent Tesfaye stood up with a pleased nod. This is a good sign. I hope the remainder of the assessment reaches similar results. Me too. After she left, a young man walked in and sat in front of me with a playful smile. Hey, there. I'm Agent Laurier Kent. I'm a primary mover. Do I have permission to try and move you? Yes. By the way, my sister's 6-year-old son needed a blood transfusion the other day, and his younger sister was the best match. When they asked her if she was willing to give blood to save her brother, she thought for a long while but eventually said yes. While they were getting her ready, she looked at the nurse with a brave face and asked, "So, when will I die?" He put a hand to his chest. She thought she was going to have to die to save her brother. "Oh, that adorable child," I said, my heart melting. "She's such a sweetheart." Quite a moving story, wasn't it? I nodded, and he turned triumphantly to the people outside. I did it. I moved her. I blinked in surprise before I laughed, but the people outside rolled their eyes and groaned. Laurier Kent, we don't have time for this, the man on the speaker said. Please commence with the assessment. Agent Laurier Kent turned back to me, grinning. Commencing. I'm going to try and make you throw gang signs. You cool with that? I nodded. Just don't make me do anything rude. I'll keep it PG. He began his assessment leaning back in his chair with his hands hooked behind his head, but 5 minutes later, he was leaning forward over the table, his gaze piercing as he stared at my hands. Man, you're tough, he said before he winked and whispered, maybe wiggle your fingers a bit and spare me some embarrassment. I chuckled. I don't think I should. Laurier Kent, what's the verdict? The man on the speaker asked. He sat back. I've never felt more powerless. Try touching her. He held his hands out and I took them. This time, I'm going to try and make you whip your hair back and forth. I chuckled. Okay. A minute later, the man on the speaker asked, Laurier Kent, anything? He sighed and let me go. Nope. Linda, anything? No, I replied. Gee, thanks for having my back, Laurier Kent whispered with mock offense as he stood up. Wait, stay there, the man on the speaker said. We want to try something. How much more can you embarrass me? He asked, sitting back down with exaggerated drama. A young woman walked into the room. Hello, Dr. B. I'm Agent Kent, a primary mover. My brother and I will both try to make you clap your hands. Do we have your permission? Yes, I replied. All right, double the power. Agent Laurier Kent said, sitting up. A minute later, I hadn't moved a muscle, neither voluntarily or involuntarily. Kent, try making Laurier Kent clap, the man on the speaker said. I want to see if Linda's gift protects her or affects you. Oh, Agents Rodriguez and Hansen and Detective Cho were able to use their gifts in front of me when they visited, I said. I understand, but we need to do this in a controlled environment for our records and observation. Why can't I make my sister clap? Agent Laurier Kent asked. Why don't we make each other clap? She said. Let's go. Not a second later, they were both clapping. At least until Agent Kent slapped her own face. Hey, she said, glaring at her brother as I tried to hide my chortle. Agent Laurier Kent didn't bother hiding his laughter though, until he too slapped his own face. They began slapping themselves as they yelled at each other, and I sat there, watching in bewildered amusement until the man on the speaker yelled above the commotion. Will you two stop fooling around? We're trying to run an assessment here. She started it, they both said, pointing to themselves. Get out of there, both of you. What a disgrace. Agent Laurier Kent turned to me, smiling. It's going to be a long day for you, so anytime you get bored, just imagine my sister slapping herself. He'd barely finished his sentence before he began pirouetting. And anytime you get really bored, imagine him doing that, Agent Kent said, smirking before she left the room. Joke's on her, I used to dream of being a ballerina, Agent Laurier Kent said, performing a few clumsy plies as he made his way to the door. It was nice meeting you, Linda. It was nice to meet you too. An older man came in and sat down. Good morning. I'm Dr. Duran, a primary persuader. Do I have your permission to persuade you into believing you're frightened? Yes. He didn't take more than a few seconds before he held out his hands. I took them, and after another few seconds, he smiled and let me go. We've been working for decades to try and find treatment for those with disadvantageous gifts. You, my dear, could very well lead to our breakthrough. I returned his smile. I truly hope so. After Dr. Duran left, a young man with a dinosaur clip in his beard walked in and sat down. Good morning. I'm Dr. Laurier Kent, Agent Laurier Kent's husband. I'm a primary sensor. Do I have permission to affect your sensory nervous system? Only if I have permission to ask about the dinosaur clip, I said as laughter sounded from outside. Do I still have one in there? He asked in surprise, feeling around for it. Our daughter spent the morning decorating my beard. I thought I took them all out. I chuckled. I think it's cute. When my son was 4, he once covered me with Star Wars stickers. I thought I removed them all until a client told me I had R2-D2 peeking out of my hair. He laughed as he placed the hair clip in his pocket. Kids, am I right? Not a day goes by that I don't miss him. His smile wavered. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'm dedicating my time here in his honor. I truly hope I can help those with dangerous gifts. Then let's make it happen. Do I have permission to? Yes. My answer is yes to all of you. All right. I'm going to try to both influence and access your senses. We'll start with influence. What do you sense? Tell me everything. I told him everything in detail, and he nodded and held out his hands and asked me to answer the question again. I repeat everything, with the addition of feeling his warm skin. Okay, he said, letting me go. I was trying to get you to smell roses, feel silk, taste strawberries, hear a canary, and see fireflies. So, I obviously can't influence your senses. Let's try accessing them. He handed me a small pouch before he put his fingers in his ears and closed his eyes. There are flavored candies in there. I want you to take one, read it, smell it, unwrap it, and eat it. You have until I count to 10. He began counting, and I reached into the bag, pulling out a disc wrapped in rough paper that had kiwi on it. After unfolding the crinkly wrapper, I smelled the candy and popped it in my mouth. The burst of sweetness was a pleasant surprise, and I let it linger on my tongue. 10. He opened his eyes and ears. Did you do it? I nodded, and he sighed and leaned closer. Here, hold my hand, let's see if I can at least get something. We linked hands, and he squinted in concentration before he smirked. You had the kiwi one. My mouth fell open in shock, as did those of the people outside. Laurier Kent, were you able to access her senses via touch? The man on the speaker asked. Dr. Laurier Kent laughed, releasing me. No, I just smelled it on her breath. I put my hand to my heart in relief. Oh, my God, for a moment there. Laurier Kent, your husband is a terrible influence on you, the man on the speaker said, not amused. Get out of there. Dr. Laurier Kent kept chuckling as he walked to the door. Sorry, Doc, couldn't resist. Welcome to Covescope. Thank you, I said, my pulse racing after his little prank. A woman waltzed in next, flipping the chair and straddling it backwards. Hey, Doc. I'm Agent Singh. I'm a primary panger and I'm going to give you a few choices. I can make your heart flutter, make you lose your breath, make your stomach growl, or make you feel like you need to drop a deuce. Pick one. Oh, I guess you can try to make my stomach growl. Try. I'm going to do it. A few unsuccessful minutes later, she slammed her hands palm up on the table. Grab them and let's get your tummy growling. She gripped my hands tight, my skin turning yellow beneath her fingers, but my stomach remained quiet. She let me go and crossed her arms as she scanned me up and down. Damn, you just might be a nuller. I smiled, rubbing my aching hands. I really hope so. Me too. She looked at a man outside. Who's next, John? Agent Finch, Dr. Abbas, Agent McKenna, Agent Silva, Agent Hunter, and Dr. Nguyen, replied the man on the speaker. What about Kadir? We have to make sure she passes her assessment before we even think of sending her to him, or he could end up killing her. True. She turned back to me with a sigh and stood up. Good luck. Thank you. After she left, a middle-aged man walked in. Good morning. He glanced at his watch. Or should I say good afternoon? How are you? I'm well, thank you. And you? Quite busy, so let's make this quick. He sat down. I'm Agent Finch, the world's most powerful primary reader. I'm going to read your mind. Okay. He handed me an envelope. Pick one of those at random and read it, but don't show anyone. Okay. The envelope was full of strips of paper, and I rummaged through them before I took one. It had a string of numbers and letters typed on it. Done? He asked. I turned to him and nodded. Yes. He frowned. Keep looking at it? Oh, sorry, okay. The seconds became minutes, and I began to get antsy again. Agent Finch hadn't said anything yet, so I glanced up at him, and I cringed at his intense gaze. I recognized the prideful arrogance behind that look. It reminded me of my foster brothers. And I knew anger wouldn't be far behind if things didn't go his way. Feeling uncomfortable, I cleared my throat and turned to the paper again. You didn't read it, did you? Agent Finch growled. I did, I said, looking at him in shock. I memorized it. Finch, the man on the speaker said. What are you experiencing? Agent Finch clenched his jaw with concentration before he said, I feel a crack in her shield. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Really? Yes. Please touch her, the man on the speaker said. No, Agent Finch said. I'm getting there. Another stretch of time passed, and the man on the speaker said, Finch, what's your progress? I told you, I'm getting there. Have you or have you not located a crack in her shield? I have. Then please touch her and let's speed up the process. Still scowling, Agent Finch held his hand out. I tried holding it, but instead he backed away until his index finger was barely grazing mine. I could see the resentment building up behind his piercing eyes. I just didn't understand why. I thought we all were eager for me to be a true nuller. Finch, the man on the speaker said, sounding weary. Anything? It's been an hour. I looked outside in shock. An hour? Detective Cho read Agent Hansen's mind in a second. I can do it in a millisecond flat. Agent Finch spat, furious. Then, it's obvious my gift is stopping you from doing that. He flared his nostrils. It may be slowing me down, but I can breach it. Finch, this is no time for pride, the man on the speaker said. We're trying to run an assessment. And that's what I'm trying to do. Agent Finch snapped, making me recoil as he stood up and knocked his chair back with a crash. All right, you know what? The man on the speaker sighed. Let's take a lunch break. Everyone, back at 2. After shooting me a final look of animosity, Agent Finch stormed out of the room, and a woman with blue hair peeked through the door. Hey, join us for lunch. I smiled and walked over. I'd love to. Awesome. I'm Agent McKenna, this is Agent Silva, and this is Dr. Abbas. We were supposed to be next to assess you if Agent Finch didn't hog the whole hour. We're sorry about that, by the way, Dr. Abbas said, tying her hair back. Being the most powerful reader in the world has gotten to his head. It's all right. I've met people like him before. We could tell. Agent McKenna hooked her arm around my shoulders. Come, let's go grab some grub. You go ahead, I said, ducking out from under her arm. I'll join you in a few minutes. As everyone headed to the cafeteria, I made my way to my room, where Wookiee greeted me with a meow. He wove around my legs while I filled his food bowl and changed his water, and I smiled as he dug in. After changing his litter, I left my cell phone to charge before I walked back to the elevators. I'd barely reached out to press the button when one of the elevators slid open, and I gasped as Agent Finch stepped out. Oh, excuse me, I said, hoping to avoid confrontation as I moved to let him pass. Linda, there you are. Agent Rodriguez wants to speak with you. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Right now? Yes, the elevator at the end of that hall takes you to her office. He nodded to the left but turned and walked right, tossing a gray card into a corner. And you'll need that card to activate the elevator, he said, still walking away. I frowned at his churlishness as I went to pick up the card. I hoped I wouldn't need to interact with him much while I lived here. Turning in the direction he nodded, I walked down the hall until I reached a lonely elevator at the very end. There were no buttons, just a card reader and a small monitor, so I swiped the card. The monitor lit up, showing the inside of the elevator as the door slid open, and I stepped in. There were no buttons in here either, so I assumed this elevator only went to Agent Rodriguez's office. The door slid shut, and I clasped my hands as I stood there, wondering what she could need me for. Perhaps it was about the results of the assessment so far. Or perhaps it was about my family. Had my blood helped them figure out who my parents were? Excitement rose within me as the door slid open, only for my smile to fade as I stepped out. This didn't look like an office. Outside the windows, I could see an amazing view that seemed quite high up, but inside it looked more like my son's bedroom. It smelled like it too. Strident music blared from the speakers, clothes were strewn all over the place, cans and bottles littered the floor, and every surface was covered with dirty dishes, fast food wrappers, and pizza boxes. I looked around in disgusted confusion. Where was I? Hello. I called out as I stepped further in. I could barely hear myself above the music. Hello. I repeated, louder. Movement drew my attention to the left, and I froze as a naked man came into view, his dark, matted hair down to his back, his beard to his stomach. He didn't notice me as he irritably grabbed the remote control and pointed it at the stereo, muting it. "Oh, I'm sorry," I said, diverting my eyes. I didn't. I couldn't finish my sentence before a scream startled me and pain erupted from my cheek. I gasped and stumbled back, realizing he'd thrown the remote at me. I turned to him in shock, and my scream clashed with his when he sent a coffee table my way. I ducked, cowering as the table shattered against the closed elevator doors. "Please, no, don't," I yelled, shielding myself behind my trembling arms as he threw a half-empty soda can at me. "I'm sorry. I'll leave." He wasn't listening as he continued screaming and hurling things at me, and I ran to the elevator, frantically searching for a button or a card reader. There were none. Terrified, I began banging my fists on the doors. "If anybody can hear me, please, send up the elevator. Anyone. Help." A bottle of wine exploded beside my head and I jerked back, my heart in a frenzy as I wildly looked for a place to hide. A stained couch was to my right and I flung myself behind it, crashing to the floor just as another bottle burst against the wall. The man continued his tantrum, and my muscles quivered with tension as I prayed he wouldn't come at me. Blood dripped down my face, dotting my dress red, but I ignored that as I kept my focus on the man's movements. He sounded further away now, and I strained my fretful ears as I tried to figure out if it was safe to escape. The commotion died down, and I took a nervous breath before I peeked above the couch. My eyes widened in horrified shock. I didn't think the room could be in worse shape than before, but he'd managed to nearly demolish it. Gulping, I waited a few tense seconds before I stood up on quivering legs. I had to get out of here. With careful steps, I maneuvered around shards of glass and wood, my pulse stuttering in my chest as I made my way back to the elevator. Once there, I took an anxious look over my shoulder before I quickly began running the gray card over every surface near the doors. There had to be a way to control the elevator from here. An abrupt sound from behind startled me and I jumped and ducked down, trembling, only to frown when I noticed the sound was sobbing. Was it the man? Who was he? Why was he here? Why had he gone into manic defense when he saw me? Why? My eyes widened as it dawned on me. Was this Kadir? The killer? A chill crept down my spine. Agent Finch sent me up to see a killer? What was he trying to prove? And why didn't he tell me? Was he trying to kill me? Could he be that petty? Whatever his intentions, it seemed I was strong enough to null a killer. Kadir sobbed again, and my heart twisted. That poor man. Deprived of human touch, of any touch, since he was 11. I could only imagine how he felt when he saw me. A living human in close proximity. Did it trigger his trauma, causing him to go wild with hysteria in fear of causing another death? Or did he think he'd gone insane, hallucinating strangers? Or was it just a powerful shock that overrode his sensibilities? I looked around the room, the signs of depression sinking in. I'd been depressed after my son's death, but friends, therapy, and Wookiee helped me find my balance. Nothing compared to physical compassion, And Kadir had none of that. He lived this long on his own, but it was obvious he was near the end of his rope. I was never going to fully understand what he'd been through in the past, and I didn't know the level of his mental stability, but I hoped he'd calm down enough to have a rational conversation. Sympathy merged with my apprehension, and I took a deep breath as I walked towards the sobbing. "Kadir," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I flinched as he gasped and slammed a door. "Go away. Go away. Go away." Bracing myself, I inched closer, my heart thudding. "Kadir, I'm Dr. Linda Bekeller and I'm..." "You're not real." "I am real. I'm a nuller and..." "You're not real." "I'm not crazy, I know you're not real. I'm imagining it, and now you're going to go away. You're not imagining this. You're not hallucinating. This isn't a psychotic break. I'm a real person. My name is Dr. Linda Bekeller. I'm a nuller. My gift protects me from other people's gifts." He remained silent, but I could hear his distressed breaths. "You can't hurt me." I stood right outside his door. "Look, I'm right here, closer than 50 feet, talking to you. My gift nulled yours." He didn't say anything. "Kadir, I can't go through this again," he whispered before letting out a tight sob. "I'm not crazy. You're not real." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I am real, you're not crazy. And you can't hurt me, I promise. If you want me to leave, I'll respect that. But if you want me to stay, I'm right here for you." He didn't reply. Detective Cho, Agent Rodriguez, and Agent Hansen brought me to Covescope yesterday. They took my blood and did some assessments. We're hopeful that I could be a primary nuller and that my blood could help those with disadvantageous gifts. Or curses. Like yours. My gift is silent, and I was abandoned by my parents as a baby. So, Covescope never knew about me, and I never knew I had a gift, or that it could be passed on. My son, Cody, he died 2 years ago, afraid of what was happening to him and not knowing how to tell me. I wiped away a tear. I'm here because of him, to help in any way I can in his memory. I could see his shadow beneath the door as he stood up, but it remained still for a while as he sniffled. Just as I was about to say something, the door opened a crack, and I backed away with a small smile. "Hello, Kadir." A bloodshot eye studied me, disbelief, fear, and hope clashing within its brown depths. After a few seconds, the door opened wider, and Kadir swept his hair to the side with a trembling hand as he looked me up and down. "You're real." I nodded. He frowned. "You're bleeding." "Oh." I put my hand to my head. "It's all right, it's not serious." I flinched as he slammed the door. Do you want me to leave?" I asked, confused. I could hear fabric rustling as he said, "No, wait. Okay, I'm right here." The door opened again, all the way this time, and I noticed he'd slipped into a shirt and shorts. His gaze lingered on my wound, and I maintained my smile, despite feeling awkward. "I can wash the blood if it makes you uncomfortable," I said. "May I use your bathroom?" He met my eyes, staring deep into them as if he was trying to read my thoughts. "You're real?" "Yes." "The bathroom, it's to your left." "Thank you." I washed my cut and pressed toilet paper to it before using my dress's belt to keep it in place. When I walked out, I stopped in my tracks when I saw Kadir squatting. He was poking at the drops of my blood on the floor, smearing them across the parquet. "Are you okay?" I asked. He stood up, rubbing his red-stained fingers together. "You're real." I smiled. "Yes." What did you say you were?" "A nuller." "So, your gift cancels mine. It protects me from it. It's like a shield, so don't worry, you can't hurt me." I reached for my head with a tight chuckle. At least, not with your gift. A soft red tinted his cheeks. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I never expect anyone. I thought. I'm sorry. There's no need to apologize. I completely understand. They didn't tell me they were sending a nuller. Ah, yes. Well, I didn't know I was going to be sent up here either. He frowned. I don't understand. It's a weird story. I can tell you all about it. Would you like to sit and talk? He blinked, turning to look at his destroyed living room. He seemed to be in a daze, so I decided to take the lead. I just had to make sure I didn't make him uncomfortable. We can sit there, on those beanbags by the window, I said, pointing without walking closer. Should I make coffee? Or tea? He turned back to me. I should. I should be the one offering, shouldn't I? It doesn't matter, I'm not much into formalities. No, you sit. He walked to the living room. Yes, the beanbags. Okay. He tripped over a throw pillow as he made his way to the kitchen. I'll make hot chocolate. Is that okay? It's perfect. I settled down on a beanbag with a sigh. Agent Hansen gave me a very basic idea of who Kadir was, and I wished I'd learned more about him before Agent Finch thrust me into this delicate situation. I would have liked to know about his history here and his general demeanor before he covered his cameras and blocked everyone. Kadir walked over with 2 mugs, but he stopped a few feet away. I smiled and gestured to the beanbag across from me. Won't you sit? I'm afraid. You can't hurt me, I promise. The closer I am, I might. We were standing closer to each other at your bedroom door. Don't worry. Please, sit down. After a second of hesitation, he put a mug on the floor. This is yours. I don't want to hand it to you. I'm sorry. Not a problem, thank you. I waited for him to sit on the furthest beanbag before I got up and retrieved my drink. Oh, there's a cinnamon stick in here, I said, sitting back down. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I should have asked. He put his mug down and got up. I can make another one for you. No. I love the idea. I love cinnamon. A small smile peeked beneath his unkempt mustache. Me too. I use the cinnamon stick to stir. I'm definitely going to start doing this from now on. His smile grew as he knelt on his beanbag again. I can't take credit. I learned it online. He looked at his mug, his smile wavering. I learn everything online. We're lucky we live in this modern age for sure. He looked back at me, the rotating emotions behind his eyes vivid as he studied me in silence. After exploring my face, his gaze roamed my body, pausing on my chest. My pulse raced with unease as I stirred my drink, but I didn't say anything. This wasn't a typical situation. He'd never seen anyone in the flesh for decades. I didn't blame him for looking. As long as it didn't go further without my consent. His eyes found mine once again, and their brightness morphed to fear as he jerked back against the wall and looked away. I sat up in concern, watching his chest heave as his breaths accelerated. Kadir, take deep breaths. You're having a panic attack. It's okay, it'll pass. We're safe here. We're safe. Just take deep breaths. He continued to hyperventilate as he squeezed his eyes shut, and I looked around for something to distract him with. These beanbags are very soft. What material is this? They're very nice. I squished my beanbag, making it rustle. I wonder what's inside them. It feels quite nice. Try it. See. It's very soft. His trembling hands gripped the beanbag, and his fingers began rubbing the fabric with vehemence as he kept his eyes closed. See how soft it is? I continued. Now squeeze a little, yes, like that. Listen to the filling crinkle. Let's alternate. One to me, one to you. There we go, we're getting a nice beat going. His breaths began to regulate as he rhythmically kneaded the beanbag, and I smiled when he opened his eyes again. He was shaking, so I grabbed a nearby sweater, shook the crumbs off, and slid it over to him. After a few seconds, he reached for it, hugging it to his chest. "I'm afraid," he whispered, tears glistening in his eyes. "I'm afraid the longer you stay, the less your gift can protect you. I'm afraid this is a cruel joke and I'll kill you just when I have hope." My own tears threatened to fall. "I understand. And that's a very valid fear. Neither one of us was prepared for this meeting, and I know it was an extreme shock for you. I don't know a lot about my gift or yours, so how about I leave and get better informed while you take the time to let all this settle in?" He looked at me with sorrow. "Yes, I think it's safer for you to leave. But I'd like to come back. You want to see me again?" "Of course. I'd like to get to know you, and I don't want you to be alone anymore." I paused. "But if you don't want me to visit, I'll respect that. I want you to, but..." He turned away in distress, and I tried to stifle my aching heart as I said, "Listen, let's take this slow. I'll go, we'll both talk to more experienced agents, and we'll figure out a safe way to do this. Okay?" He nodded. "All right." I took a final sip of my hot chocolate. "Thank you so much for this, and for teaching me a new trick with the cinnamon stick." "Oh, you're welcome. If you can show me how to operate the elevator, I'll be on my way." "I can't control it." His skeptical eyes met mine. "Wait, you didn't tell me how you got here." "Oh." I let out a tight laugh and pulled out the gray card. "Agent Finch gave me his card and told me Agent Rodriguez wanted to meet me here." He frowned, drying his eyes. "Agent Finch doesn't have access to my elevator." "Oh." I studied the blank card. Maybe he borrowed it from someone. Codier's expression morphed to disgust. "He wanted to kill you." His bluntness startled me. Well, I did consider it, but it doesn't make sense he'd try to kill a nuller. Everyone else is excited about the prospects. "Did he tell you he's the best reader in the world?" "He did." "That's not enough. He wants to be the best gifted in the world. He hates anyone with a stronger gift. Like me. Anytime I vented over video chat during lunch, he'd call me later and say I should kill myself because there was no other way out." I put my hand to my mouth in shock. "He said that? Did you tell Agent Rodriguez?" "I did. She believed me, but she said I had no evidence. Agent Finch is very important. They don't want to lose him to another organization. So they just let him keep bullying you like that. They revoked his access to my elevator, in case he sent up poisoned food. They also began recording my calls, but he'd call from other numbers. Disguise his voice. I blocked so many numbers. But when I got older, it was like a challenge. Even when I'm close to doing it. I don't want to give him the satisfaction. But now he's doing the same to you. Your gift protected you from his, didn't it?" "It did." He nodded. "He sent you here to die. And I'm sure he hoped I'd kill myself for killing you." I curled my lip in disgust. Well, if that was his plan, he failed. We're both witnesses and there are security cameras showing him throwing the card to me. I'm going to talk to Agent Rodriguez." He nodded. "I should go get this sorted. You said you can't control the elevators from here." "No. It's a safety measure. In case I go psycho and decide to kill everyone. They even have a camera inside. If I'm in, they don't operate it." "Oh." I let out an awkward cough. "All right, then I should call someone. Do you have a phone?" I left mine charging in my room. Oh, yes. He searched his pockets. It's in the kitchen. He didn't move to get it, so I asked, should I get it for you? His eyes scanned me yet again before he said, you're really real. Yes. I'm afraid if I go, you'll disappear. Do you want me to come with you? He shook his head, wide-eyed. Don't come closer to me. Okay, I won't. I'll wait right here. He winced at the thoughts plaguing his mind, and my heart twisted at his inner battle. Here, I said, sliding my bracelet over to him. Proof I'm real. Keep it with you. It'll stay with you even after you clean up my blood and wash my mug. He picked it up with a shaking hand and brought it close to his face, studying each and every cheap charm as if they contained the secrets of life. My son used to buy me a charm every year for my birthday, I said with a wistful smile. It's my most valuable possession, but I know you need it more than I do right now. His poignant eyes locked on mine, and he hugged the bracelet to his chest as he whispered, thank you. We both jumped as a phone rang. That's Agent Rodriguez's ringtone, Cottier said, his anxious eyes wide. Get your phone, we'll answer together. After a hesitant look, he got up and darted away, zooming back a few seconds later. Relief washed over him as he saw me still sitting, and he knelt back on his beanbag and answered the call on speaker. Hello, Agent Rodriguez. Cottier, she said, her strict tone laced with worry. Is Linda with you? Yes, I'm here, I replied. Linda. What do you think you're doing? This is utterly reckless. I agree, but it wasn't my fault, I said, trying to remain calm. Agent Finch told me you wanted to see me, and he threw a gray card down and told me to use this elevator to get to your office. Agent Finch? Yes. She let out a furious sigh. I didn't want to believe he'd stoop that low. I met Cottier's eyes with hope as I asked her, so, you believe me? We've received multiple complaints about him since he's worked here, enough for there to be a pattern. But he's smart enough to avoid leaving evidence. Finch is a very important member of our organization, and irrefutable evidence is needed before we can accuse him of such behavior. Losing him, or having him work against us, would be detrimental for many. I told you, Cottier mouthed with a rueful frown. What about the security cameras? I asked. We checked them right after Finch told us where you went, Agent Rodriguez said. The only interaction between you two is the exchanging of a few words before he walks off. Then you go to a blind spot in the hall and emerge with Agent Silva's security card. Damn it. I took a few irritated breaths before I said, I understand. I'm just glad what happened didn't result in any casualties. We'll just have to be strong and show him he can't win. Cottier nodded. I agree. We're going to keep this between us, Agent Rodriguez said. We'll say Linda found the card and explored nearby elevators. Cottier and I sighed, dejected. Okay. Linda, I'm sending the elevator up. We need to complete your assessment before you interact any further with Cottier. I understand, I said.